Hey there, in this video I'm going to walk you through how to complete the energy pyramid activity. So this is going to be packet page 162. This was the foldable that you watched in an earlier video, how to cut out and glue into your notebook. But I'm going to go over that again real quickly. So we're going to start by cutting out the entire square from the piece of paper. So just cut the whole thing out. And then once you've got it all cut out, you are going to cut the bottom left portion. So basically, if you've got the blank section down here, right at the bottom, just like I have, it's going to be this line right here on the right, okay, at the bottom. So you'll start out here where the dotted line is, and you'll go all the way up to the very center. Okay, so you'll just make one cut right here. Now that we hopefully have our foldable cut out, let's go ahead and start filling it in. So we're going to start with, if I turn the foldable, to the left, one of the first pyramids, there are 3 pyramids, so just the first one to the left. We're going to label the bottom largest section of our pyramid as our producers, which are also called autotrophs. Remember, producers or autotrophs perform photosynthesis or chemosynthesis to make its own food. So photosynthesis is autotrophs using sunlight energy to create its own food. Chemotrophs use chemosynthesis to take chemicals and make their own food. But both of these are types of producers because they are making their own food, and therefore they will always go at the bottom or the beginning of a food chain. Our second level up are the primary consumers. These are also known as herbivores because they eat the plant matter, right? That's down here. Those are producers. So primary consumers are at the next or second step of our food chain. Secondary consumers eat the primary consumers. So these are typically going to be your carnivores, but they could also be omnivores. And then tertiary consumers are organisms that eat the secondary consumers. So your tertiary consumers are going to be carnivores. Typically, they're going to be our apex predators, the animals we might think of at the top of the food chain, because that's where we're at, is at the very top of our food chain here. So 4 levels of a food chain, always starting with a producer. Then we have primary consumer, secondary consumer, tertiary consumer. If we turn our foldable one more time, take a look at the middle pyramid, we can label the amount of energy that flows through the food chain, So starting down here at the bottom level, this is where the most energy is, because energy always starts from the sun. So for example, let's say that our producers down here have 10,000 kilocalories, or just calories. So 10,000 calories in our producer or autotroph level. Well, remember, those autotrophs, the plants, they get eaten by our primary consumers, but only 10% of the energy that's available at the producer level actually gets passed on to the primary consumer level. So we go from having 10,000 calories to just 1,000 calories. Well, then the primary consumer gets eaten by the secondary consumer. And again, 10% of that energy gets passed on. So 10% of 1,000 calories is 100 calories. So the secondary consumer only gets 100 calories. But then that secondary consumer gets eaten by a tertiary consumer, and that tertiary consumer gets the least amount of energy with just 1%, with just 10% of the 100 calories being 10. So organisms at the top of the food chain have to eat a lot more because they are not getting as much energy from their food. So herbivores, which are typically primary consumers, they have a lot more energy that they're getting because they're closer to the bottom of the food chain. Whereas organisms up here at the top are tertiary consumers. They need to eat a lot more because they get less energy. So as you go up the energy pyramid, the amount of energy decreases, right? Because only 10% is passed on. So I went from 10,000 calories to 1,000 calories, 100 calories, and then 10 calories. However, the opposite of true is true with toxins. So the classic example is DDT, which is a pesticide that farmers and agriculture workers sprayed throughout the 1970s as just a good pesticide. It worked really well. Unfortunately, it worked a little too well, and it was soon banned because it was causing human health issues, but also issues with other animals in the ecosystem. But what happened is we would spray DDT and the plants would take it up into their roots. Well, then the animals would when the animals went to eat the plants and then other animals ate, the other animals, that DDT, that toxin, increased with each trophic level. This is because, remember what I said earlier about how the animal up here at the top of the food chain has to eat more food? Well, this lion or this human up here at the top of the food chain was eating, dozens of producers or dozens of herbivores and ingesting a lot of that toxin, DDT, and it was causing severe reactions. So we ended up banning that pesticide. It cannot be used in anything anymore. So when you're looking at an energy pyramid, the amount of energy decreases as you move up the pyramid, but toxins actually increase in amount as you move up the pyramid. Our last pyramid that we have, we're going to draw an example food chain. So I said draw, but I wrote it out because you all know that I am not a very good artist. So here we have a terrestrial food chain. So starting with wild berries, those are our producers, right? They're a plant. They get eaten by a mouse. The mouse gets eaten by a snake, and the snake gets eaten by a hawk. So we've got producer, primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. And then here is an aquatic food chain. So again, algae is our producer, which gets eaten by shrimp, which gets eaten by a fish, which then gets eaten by the human. So 2 examples here on this single energy pyramid of a terrestrial and aquatic food chain. And again, this can help represent what we were talking about a second ago with how toxins can build up. So, you spray a pesticide to help keep the wild berries from being taken over by weeds or bugs, but then the mice eat the berries, and then 5 mice get eaten by the snake, and then the snake gets eaten by the hawk, and the hawk is going to need to eat 2 or 3 snakes, which have all eaten maybe 3 or 4 mice. And so that toxin, which was present in very low levels down here in the producers, we now have a lot of that toxin in the hawk. So we're now ready to finally put our foldable together. So we need to add some glue to the section that says paste this section under adjacent triangle. So you'll just put a little glue here, and you'll remember where you cut along that blue line. you are going to tuck that section of the triangle on top of where you put your glue. So you basically just take this triangle right here and you'll slide it over to the left where you put your glue, and that will create a triangle that sticks up out of your notebook. And then you should have a pyramid. It'll look like this. So once you've got your pyramid, it's 3-dimensional. You'll just kind of have to tuck your finger in on one of the two sides that wasn't glued down to kind of crease it so that you can fold it over so that it'll lay flat in your notebook like you see here. There is a link here to show you how this looks like. I'll make sure to put this for you in Canvas, or I can show you in class if you have any questions. So that's it for these notes for our energy, pyramid, foldable. If you have any questions or concerns about the notes for today, just let me know. Thanks.